Undercover Billionaire's brutal revenge. A filthy rat like you doesn't belong in a 5-star hotel. Take this pocket change and crawl back to the gutter before I call security to throw you out with the trash. I looked at my son's fiancée, her face twisted in disgust, and I just smiled. She had no idea that with one single phone call, her entire family's empire would turn into a pile of ash. The sound of stiletto heels clicking against the marble floor of the Grand Plaza lobby sounded like a countdown to a disaster. I stood there, blending into the shadows of a massive pillar, wearing a faded, gray janitor's uniform. To anyone passing by, I was just a ghost, an invisible woman cleaning up after the rich. In reality, I am Lan Nguyen. I am the 40% shareholder of this 5-star hotel and the mastermind behind the Prosperity Investment Fund. I chose this life. I chose to live simply because I wanted to see people's true faces before I handed over my multi-billion-dollar empire to my son, Min. Today was his engagement party to Lynn, the daughter of a real estate tycoon. Hey, old lady. Are you blind? Do you have any idea how much these shoes cost? A shrill, piercing voice shattered my thoughts. It was Lynn. She was wearing a designer mermaid dress, her face caked in expensive makeup, but her expression was hideous. A tiny drop of water from my mop had accidentally splashed onto her heel. I lowered my head, making my voice sound shaky. I'm so sorry, miss, let me clean it for you right away. Lynn didn't stop. She hissed, using her hand decorated with a massive diamond ring to shove my shoulder hard. Clean it? You're going to use that filthy rag on my shoes? You lowlife. What kind of trash is this hotel hiring? Why is a senile, disgusting woman like you wandering around on my big day? At that moment, Lynn's mother, Phuong, strutted over. She was dripping in gold and smelled of perfume so strong it was nauseating. She looked at me like I was something she had stepped on in the street. What's wrong, honey? Why are you wasting your breath on this garbage? Phuong sneered, her lip curling in a permanent pout of arrogance. Look, Mom. She ruined my shoes. It's such bad luck. Having to see a person like this on my engagement day is a curse. Lynn stomped her foot, turning to a young manager nearby. You. Call your director. I want this hag fired immediately. No, wait, I want her fined. Have Illy. The manager, Nam, rushed over, trembling. Nam knew exactly who I was. I had mentored him since he was an intern. He looked at me with pleading eyes, his lips quivering. Mrs. Lan has been here for a long time. She's always very careful. Careful? Are you protecting her? Lynn cut him off, her voice reaching a fever pitch. Do you know who I am? I'm the future daughter-in-law of the chairman of this hotel group. One word from me, and you'll be packing your bags right along with this old hag. I stood there, silently observing. Future daughter-in-law of the chairman? Interesting. Min had told her he was the CEO, but he never claimed to be the chairman's son. She was either delusional or building a fantasy based on rumors. Please, calm down, Nam stammered. Let me take you to a lounge to change. We can settle this later. There is no later. Phuong barked. Call security. Throw her out into the dumpster where she belongs. People like her pollute the air of this hotel. And deduct her entire month's salary to pay for my daughter's shoes. Phuong opened her designer purse, pulled out a few crumpled, small-denomination bills, and threw them directly at my face. The notes fluttered through the air like dead leaves, landing on the wet floor. Take this change and go buy yourself some scraps. Get out of my sight. Don't let me see you again in this city, she huffed. I slowly bent down, picking up each bill one by one. The sight made Lynn let out a cruel cackle. See, Mom? Just like I thought. A cheap rat. She sees money and she crawls. Get out, you insect. Just then, the elevator doors opened. Min stepped out, looking powerful in a tailored Italian suit. Seeing the commotion, he frowned and walked toward us. What's going on, Lynn? Mrs. Phuong? Min asked, his eyes sweeping over me. I gave him a subtle shake of my head, a signal to stay quiet. Lin's face transformed instantly. She lunged forward, clinging to Min's arm with a nauseatingly sweet pout. Oh, Min. Thank God you're here. Look at this. This janitor ruined my shoes and then gave me an attitude. I told security to kick her out, but this manager is being useless. You have to handle this for me. Min looked at me, then at the small bills in my hand. For a split second, I saw a flash of pure, unadulterated rage in his eyes. He knew how much I despised being disrespected. But he also knew my plan. He took a deep breath, forcing himself to stay calm. It's just a small accident, Lin. I'm sure Mrs. Lon didn't mean it, Min said, his voice dropping an octave. Small? How is this small? Phuong jumped in. Min, you're about to be family. You have to maintain standards. If you let people like this work here, what will the elite think of our group? If you're this weak now, how will you run an empire later? Min let out a cold, dry laugh. You're right. Standards must be kept. So, according to you and Lin, what should be done? Lin smirked, pointing a finger directly at my face. Fire her. No severance, no pay. And make her get on her knees and apologize to me for ruining my shoes. The lobby went dead silent. The staff nearby held their breath. Everyone knew Lin was a nightmare, but this was a new level of cruelty. Asking an elderly woman to kneel? I looked at Min. His fists were clenched so tight his knuckles were white. He was about to explode. But I remained calm. I wanted to see exactly how deep this girl's malice went. Lin, don't you think you're being a bit excessive? Min asked. Excessive? You're calling me excessive over a janitor? Lin screamed. Do you even love me? Or are you just like this poor trash, feeling sorry for your own kind? Phuong added fuel to the fire. Enough, Min. You're being indecisive. If you can't handle it, I'll call the chairman myself. I'm very close friends with his personal assistant. Let's see if your CEO position is still safe after that. I almost burst out laughing. Close friends with my assistant? My assistant is the most disciplined, loyal man I know. He wouldn't touch people like this with a 10-foot pole. Min turned to me, his eyes filled with immense pain. He stepped closer, reaching out to take the mop from my hand, but I stepped back. My gaze was steady. Fine, Min said, his voice echoing through the lobby. If you want to make this a big deal, let's go to the VIP boardroom. I'll settle this once and for all before the ceremony begins. Now you're talking, Phuong huffed, flipping her hair. Come on, Lin. Let's go watch him crush this cockroach. As Lin walked past me, she intentionally slammed her shoulder into mine, nearly knocking me over. Wait for it, she whispered in my ear. Your ending is going to be brutal. We walked into the VIP boardroom on the 3rd floor. The heavy oak doors slammed shut. In the room were only me, Min, Lin, Phuong, and Nam, the manager who was still shaking like a leaf. The moment Lin sat down in the leather chair, she crossed her legs and snapped her fingers at me. Well, get on your knees. Should I call a band to play for you? Phuong pulled out her phone, pretending to dial a number. Let me call that assistant now. Let's see what he has to say about staff insulting VIP guests. Min didn't sit in the chairman's seat. He stood right next to me. He took a silk handkerchief from his pocket and slowly, gently, began to wipe the dirty water stains from my sleeve. The room went silent. Lin and her mother stared, paralyzed. Min. What the hell are you doing? You're cleaning that filthy woman's clothes? Lin shrieked, slamming her hand on the table. Min looked up. The patience was gone. His eyes were like shards of ice. Lin, Min said slowly. Do you know why I invited you and your mother here today for this engagement? Because you love me. And because my family is rich and prestigious enough for your status. Lin replied with unearned confidence. Min laughed, a sound filled with bitterness. My status? What do you think my status is? I told you I built myself from nothing. I told you my mother raised me by selling street food on the sidewalk. You said you loved me for my hustle. But today, you humiliated a worker who is no different from who my mother was. Do you really think I would marry a woman like you? Fuang scoffed. Oh, Min. Don't be dramatic. The past is the past. You're a CEO now, a member of the elite. You have to separate emotion from class. This woman is a servant. A janitor. How dare you compare her to your respectable, late mother? I finally spoke, my voice calm and clear. Actually, Mrs. Fuang, I'm not late. I'm very much alive. The room froze. Lin's eyes widened. What did you say? Who told you you could speak? Min turned to me and bowed his head. I'm sorry, mother. I didn't think it would go this far. I was going to introduce you at the ceremony, but I couldn't stand seeing them treat you like this. The word mother hit Lin like a freight train. Lin froze. Her designer handbag slipped from her hand and thudded onto the floor. Fuang turned pale, the blood draining from her face. Min, what did you just say? This janitor is your mother? You're joking, right? You're from a billionaire family. Min looked Lin dead in the eye. I never said I was the chairman's son. You invented that fantasy yourself. But you were right about one thing. I am related to the chairman. At that exact moment, the boardroom doors swung open. The personal assistant Fuang claimed to be close friends with walked in, followed by two massive security guards. He ignored Lin and her mother entirely, walked straight to me, and bowed deeply. Madam Chairman, the car is ready. The board members are waiting for you in the grand hall for the annual meeting. Regarding this engagement party, how would you like us to dispose of it? Lin and Fuang weren't just pale anymore, they were gray. Lin collapsed into her chair, her lips trembling, unable to form words. I slowly unbuttoned the gray janitor's jacket, revealing the high-end silk outfit I was wearing underneath. I looked at the two of them and gave them a small, powerful smile. Mrs. Fuang, you were right. I am a poor worker. But you forgot one thing, a poor worker with brains and grit can build an empire. But people like you, who hide behind a mask of gold and look down on others, you are just parasites that will eventually be purged. I turned to Nam. Nam, starting tomorrow, you are the new CEO. Min will be taking a leave of absence to learn how to choose a wife with actual character. Lin burst into tears, crawling toward me to grab the hem of my clothes. Ma'am. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I was just stressed about the wedding. Please forgive me, I love Min. Truly. I coldly pulled my clothes away. You love the chair of the chairman's daughter-in-law. You don't love my son. If I were a real janitor today, would you be on your knees apologizing? Fuang finally snapped out of her trance, trying to fix the unfixable. Chairman Lan, we're adults here. Let's talk this through. My daughter is just young and naive. Young and naive? I interrupted. She's nearly 30. Your parenting created a monster. And by the way, that Nam Hai real estate project your family put all their assets into, hoping to partner with us? I just sent a text to my secretary to cancel it 5 minutes ago. Fuang's eyes rolled back, she clutched her chest and slumped to the floor. Lin let out a blood-curdling scream. But this was only the beginning. Karma was just getting started. The heavy oak doors of the VIP boardroom slammed shut, leaving Lin's hysterical sobbing and Fuang's ragged gasps echoing behind us. I walked down the red-carpeted hallway of the hotel, my steps as steady as if I hadn't just nuked someone's entire future. Min walked beside me, his face a mask of sadness, but his eyes were sharp with a newfound clarity. Mom! I'm so sorry you had to go through that humiliation, Min said, his voice cracking slightly. I stopped and looked at my only son. He was tall, successful, and brilliant, but his kindness was a double-edged sword, a weakness that sharks like Lynn could smell from a mile away. I patted his shoulder. You aren't the one at fault, Min. I was the one who let you fly too close to the sun without checking your wings. But today, we saw their true souls. That's a cheap price to pay for the truth. We didn't head to the Grand Hall immediately. I led Min to the chairman's private office on the penthouse floor. From here, the city lights looked like a sea of diamonds. I poured 2 cups of lotus tea, the same tea I've been drinking for 30 years, back when I was just a woman with a street stall and a dream. Do you know why I pulled the plug on the Nam Hai project? I asked, staring out the window. Min hesitated. Because of how they treated you? I shook my head and gave him a grim smile. That was just the final nail in the coffin. I've had my private investigators digging into Nam Hai for months. Lynn's father, Mr. Hai, is a dead man walking. He's drowning in gambling debts from overseas casinos. They targeted you, pushed for this engagement, and tried to rush the wedding just to use our group's credit to get bank loans. They were planning to use our blood to fill their empty veins. If I hadn't played this janitor part today, if you had married her, they would have dragged our entire legacy into the abyss within 6 months. Min's face went pale. The teacup in his hand trembled. He had no idea that behind the designer clothes and the prestigious family name lay a black hole of debt and lies. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. It was a call from Mr. Nam Hai. I put it on speaker. Chairman Lon. Please, I beg you, let's talk. His voice was frantic, bordering on insane. My daughter is a fool, I'll make her crawl on her hands and knees to apologize to you for the rest of her life. Just don't cancel the contract. If this project fails, my family is finished. We'll lose everything. I spoke into the phone, my voice like dry ice. Mr. Hai, kindness isn't something you can bargain for. When your daughter looked down on the poor, you didn't teach her better. When your wife threw pocket change at my face, she threw away your family's dignity. The contract is dead. The order is signed. It's over. Goodbye. I hung up before he could utter another word. Karma doesn't negotiate. But the drama wasn't over. A moment later, Nam, the newly appointed CEO, knocked and entered. He looked stressed. Madam Chairman, there's a situation. Lynn won't leave the hotel. She's making a massive scene in the lobby, screaming that you and Min are scammers. She's claiming you fake being poor to trap them into a bad legal deal. There are customers watching, and a few reporters have already arrived. I raised an eyebrow. She still hadn't learned. The stupidity of some people truly knows no bounds. Min, how do you want to handle this? I turned to my son. Min stood up, straightened his tie, and looked colder than I had ever seen him. I'll handle it, Mom. This started with me. I'm ending it. I nodded. I'm coming with you. Let's see how this tragedy ends. When we reached the lobby, it was chaos. Lynn was sitting on the marble floor, her hair a mess, screaming at the top of her lungs. Phuong was pointing her finger at the security guards, hurling every insult in the book. Look at them. This hotel is run by frauds. Lynn shrieked at the people filming with their phones. That old hag dressed up as a janitor to humiliate me so they could have an excuse to steal my father's company. They're predators. A young reporter stepped toward Min. Mr. Min, what is your response to these accusations? Is the Prosperity Group using dirty tactics to crush its partners? Min didn't flinch. He walked right up to Lynn, looking down at her with pure disgust. Lynn, you're calling us scammers? Min's voice boomed, silencing the crowd. Let me ask you, when I told you I built myself from nothing, what did you say? You said you didn't care about money. You said you loved me. But today, when you thought my mother was just a poor janitor, what did you do? You tried to make her kneel. You called her trash. If you truly loved me, would you treat the woman who gave me life like garbage? The crowd began to murmur. The sympathetic looks Lin was getting vanished instantly, replaced by glares of judgment. And about the contract, Min continued, pulling a stack of documents from his pocket. This is evidence of Nam Hai Group's financial fraud. They've been falsifying assets to trick investors. We cancelled the deal to protect our shareholders. My mother's janitor role wasn't a trap, it was a character test. And unfortunately, you failed before you even opened your mouth. Lin's jaw dropped. Her face, caked in expensive foundation, twisted in fear. Fuang tried to sneak away, but security blocked her path. Wait a minute, Mrs. Fuang, I stepped forward, my voice calm but terrifyingly heavy. That $20 you threw at my face? I still have it. I won't be giving it back. I'm donating it to the Children's Hospital, so it can finally do some good instead of being used to insult people. I turned to the crowd and the cameras. I am Lon, the chairman of the board. I apologize for this disturbance. Today, I am not just canceling my son's engagement. I am announcing a new policy. From this moment on, any individual or organization found disrespecting workers or looking down on the less fortunate at any of our properties will be blacklisted for life. Applause erupted throughout the lobby. Lin and her mother were escorted out by security, dragging their feet in total humiliation as the crowd mocked them. But the real shocker was yet to come. That night, as Min and I were having a simple dinner at home, the old house in the alley I kept to remind myself where I came from, there was a knock at the door. Nam walked in, looking like he'd seen a ghost. Madam Chairman, there's something in the Nam Hai audit. We found a secret file from 25 years ago. It's a series of property transfers and a witness statement regarding your late husband's accident. My heart skipped a beat. My husband, he died in a construction accident when Min was only 3. I had always believed it was a tragic mistake. What is it? Tell me, I said, my voice turning sharp. Nam handed me a yellowed piece of paper. Ma'am, the accident wasn't an accident. Mr. Nam Hai was the one who cut the crane cables to steal your husband's blueprints and the land he owned. And the person who helped him do it was someone inside your own family. Before Nam could finish, a black luxury car pulled up outside. A man stepped out, Min's uncle, Kwok. The man I had trusted to manage our family's private funds for 2 decades. He walked in with a smirk that turned my blood to ice. Sister-in-law, long time no see. I heard you made quite a splash today. But some secrets are better left buried with the dead. Kwok stepped into the courtyard with the arrogance of a man who owned the world, leaning slightly on an ivory-handled cane. He glanced at the modest house with a smirk, then fixed his eyes on the tablet in Nam's hand. The air turned heavy, charged with the electricity of a looming storm. Uncle Kwok? What are you doing here at this hour? Min asked, stepping out from the house. He had always respected this man, the only relative who supposedly helped us when we were starving on the streets. Kwok let out a dry chuckle and sat down on an old wooden bench. Min, I came to congratulate you. Snatching Nam Hai, a prize I've been eyeing for years, was a masterstroke by your mother. But... He looked at me, his eyes turning into predatory slits. Some secrets are better left in the grave, Lon. I gripped the yellowed paper so hard my knuckles turned white. The cold ghost of the past was clawing at my throat. You're talking about my husband's accident 25 years ago, aren't you? You and Nam Hai conspired to murder him. My voice shook, not from fear, but from a rage that had been suppressed for over 2 decades. My husband, a brilliant architect who trusted his cousin Kwok with every blueprint, only to end up crushed under the debris of a faulty construction site. Kwok didn't even flinch. He poured himself a cup of tea from the pot on the table, took a sip, and sighed. You were always too smart for your own good. Yes, Nam Hai needed that land to build his empire, and I needed your husband's genius designs to make a name for myself. We just accelerated the inevitable. He was too stubborn, too ethical to sell out. You monster! Min roared, lunging forward, but I grabbed his arm. Stay calm, Min, I said, my gaze locked on Kwok. You didn't come here just to confess. What do you want? Kwok's expression turned dead serious. Lon, you won the battle for Nam Hai, but remember this, the entire financial infrastructure of the Prosperity Group was built by me. With one keystroke, I can freeze every cent you own. I want 50% of Nam Hai shares as hush money. If you refuse, not only will you be bankrupt, but I'll release the documents proving your husband was the one who signed off on the faulty safety checks. Do you want your son to know his father was a mass murderer? I went numb. This was his trump card. He had forged my husband's signature on the safety reports before the accident. If that went public, my husband's legacy would be incinerated, and Min would live in the shadow of a lie forever. You've been planning this for years, I whispered. From the day I gave you the first few dollars to start your street stall, I was playing the long game, Kwok smirked. You think you became a billionaire just on luck? I needed you to build an empire big enough for me to harvest. Min stood there, his face ashen. The man he called uncle was the devil himself. You lied to us, for 25 years? Kwok ignored him and slid a transfer agreement across the table. Sign it, sister-in-law. You can keep your 5-star hotel to retire in. Don't let greed ruin everything. I looked at the contract, then into the greedy eyes of a killer. For 25 years, I had lived a lie. But Kwok made one fatal mistake. He thought I was just a lucky woman who struck gold. He forgot that to keep this empire alive in a world of sharks, I had to learn how to spot a traitor from a mile away. Nam, I called out softly. The young CEO stepped forward, holding a tablet. Madam Chairman, the recording is complete and has been streamed live to the Economic Crimes Division. Kwok's face turned from smug to ghostly white in a heartbeat. What? You wouldn't. Kwok, I stood up, my stature commanding the room. You think I let you manage my finances for 20 years without an independent shadow audit? 5 years ago, I noticed the leaks into your shell companies. Nam isn't just an assistant, he's a top-tier forensic auditor I trained in secret. We have everything, the embezzlement, the money laundering, and the proof that you forged my husband's signature. Right then, sirens wailed from the end of the alley. A fleet of police cars screeched to a halt outside. Officers swarmed the courtyard. Tran Van Kwok, you are under arrest for fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy, a senior officer announced. Kwok's cane clattered to the ground. He looked at me with pure venom. You trapped me? I didn't trap you, I said bitterly. Karma just finally found your address. You used my husband's death to climb the ladder. That ladder was always going to break. As they dragged him away, Kwok hissed, you'll regret this, the Nam Hai family won't let you rest. I smiled coldly. They'll be too busy sharing a cell block with you. But as the dust settled, the phone in Nam's hand rang. It was a restricted number. I took the call. Lon, a woman's voice whispered, a voice I hadn't heard in 2 decades. The explosion at the hotel was just a teaser. You destroyed my partners, but you'll never find me. I'm the one who really pulled the strings 25 years ago. Look behind you. I spun around. In the darkness of the alley, a woman stood under a street lamp, wearing a wide-brimmed hat. It was my best friend who vanished after the funeral. She held a remote detonator in her hand. The red light on the detonator blinked like a demonic heartbeat in the dim alleyway. I stepped out from the shadows, her face partially obscured by the wide brim of her hat, but her eyes, sharp, cold, and filled with a lifetime of resentment, were unmistakable. My best friend, the woman who held my hand at my husband's funeral, was the one who had arranged his death. Why? I whispered, my heart hammering against my ribs. We were like sisters. I shared everything with you. That's exactly why. I screamed, her voice cracking the silence of the night. You shared your scraps with me, Lon. You were the beautiful one, the lucky one, the one the most brilliant man in the city chose to love. I was always the +1, the shadow following behind your perfect life. I didn't want your charity. I wanted your life. Min tried to step forward, but my thumb hovered dangerously over the button. Stay back, boy. Or I'll turn this entire block into a crater. I've wired the gas lines of your precious old house. One click, and you go to see your father early. Min froze, his face pale but his eyes burning with fury. I took a slow, deliberate step toward her. I wasn't the poor janitor now, nor the untouchable chairman. I was a woman who had spent 25 years mourning a man because of this woman's jealousy. You think killing us will give you what you want? I asked, my voice dropping to a low, dangerous growl. You've spent 25 years hiding in the shadows of Europe, changing your face, living on blood money. Look at you, my. You're not a queen. You're a ghost. You've been dead since the day you killed him. Shut up. My shrieked, her hand trembling. I have the power now. I took your husband, I took your peace, and now I'm taking your legacy. No, you're not, I said, pulling a small, battered notebook from my pocket. It was my husband's final design journal. Do you know what his last entry was? He knew someone was tampering with the site. He knew Kwok was greedy. But he wrote, if anything happens to me, Lon, please look after my. She's fragile, she's lonely, and she has no one else. She's our family. My froze. Her eyes darted to the notebook, then back to me. The thumb on the detonator wavered. He said that? He cared about me? He loved you as a sister, my. He wanted to protect you, I lied. Or maybe I didn't. My husband was a man of infinite kindness, it was entirely possible. But in this moment, the truth was a weapon. You killed the only person who actually saw your soul and wanted to save it. A sob broke from Mai's throat, a jagged, ugly sound. The weight of 25 years of wasted hatred crashed down on her in a single second. The detonator slipped from her shaking fingers, clattering onto the pavement. Before it could even stop rolling, Nam and the police, who had been circling through the back alley, tackled her to the ground. The threat was over. The ghost was finally in chains. 1 month later. The Grand Plaza was buzzing, but the atmosphere was different. The janitor policy was in full effect. Every employee, from the dishwashers to the executives, was treated with the same fierce respect. Min sat in the CEO's office, his desk piled high with new, ethical contracts. He had grown up. He wasn't looking for a trophy wife anymore, he was looking for a partner. As for me, I stood in the lobby, wearing my old, faded janitor's uniform one last time. I watched a young girl, a new intern, accidentally spill coffee on a wealthy guest's expensive suit. The guest started to redden, his mouth opening to shout, but then he saw the respect all plaque on the wall and my face staring back at him from the shadows. He swallowed his rage, smiled at the girl, and said, "It's okay. Accidents happen." I smiled to myself and walked toward the exit. Outside, a familiar face was waiting. Lynn. She wasn't wearing Prada or Gucci. She was wearing a simple uniform from a local charity kitchen. She looked tired, her hands were calloused, but for the first time, she looked human. "Chairman Lon," she said, bowing her head. I wanted to return this. She handed me an envelope. Inside were $20. The exact amount her mother had thrown at me. "I earned this by scrubbing floors for a month," Lynn said, her voice steady. "It's not much, but it's honest. I'm starting over, ma'am. From the bottom. Like you did." I looked at the $20, then at the girl who had finally found her soul in the dirt. I didn't take the money. I tucked it back into her hand. "Keep it, Lynn," I said. "Use it to buy a meal for someone hungrier than you. That's how you build an empire that actually matters." I walked away, blending into the crowd of the busy city. I wasn't the billionaire. I wasn't the janitor. I was just Lon, a woman who knew that in the end, we all end up as dust. The only thing that stays behind is how we treated the people who had nothing to give us. The sun set over the skyline, and for the first time in 25 years, I felt like I could finally breathe.